On January 31, 2014, three teenagers, Morgan Geyser, Anissa Weier, and Payton Leutner, went on a picnic in Walker Park, Wisconsin. They planned to play hide and seek, but ended up playing a deadly game. Morgan Geyser was considered weird at school. She was obsessed with horror stories, spending all day on special websites and writing creepy stories in her diary. Because of this, she had no friends. None of the kids wanted to be friends with her, and she didn't try to make friends either. It wasn't until the 4th grade that Morgan found a best friend. A kind-hearted girl named Payton Leutner wanted to be friends with Morgan when she saw her sitting alone one day. Morgan was happy to finally have a friend, and they spent a lot of time together. In October 2013, the girls met and became friends with Anissa Weier. All the girls went to the same school. Anissa was an ordinary girl, did well in school, was a favorite of the teachers, and so many people talked to her to help her in class. But Payton did not get along with her, finding her aggressive and unpleasant. Anissa didn't like Payton either. Payton felt that Morgan and Anissa had become very close because of their fascination with horror stories, and Payton didn't understand the fascination. She didn't like the whole thing. She even told her parents about it, and they told her to stop hanging out with her friends who were into horror stories. Payton's parents did not like Morgan and Anissa. They felt that her friends were a bad influence on their daughter. Despite her parents' advice, Payton didn't listen, refused to leave her friends, and continued to hang out with them. But she couldn't imagine what was about to happen. On May 31, 2014, the friends went to the park for a picnic. Morgan had celebrated his birthday the day before, turning 12. Later, a bicyclist found Payton bleeding and called 911. An ambulance took the girl to the hospital, where doctors fought for her life. Someone had stabbed Payton 19 times in her arms, legs, and torso. The police began to find out who could have attacked the girl so brutally and determined that she had gone to the park that day with her friends, Morgan and Anissa. Her friends were found on the side of the road, on the highway. There were bloodstains on their clothes. The friends were 12 years old, just like Payton. The police questioned the girls as gently as possible to avoid traumatizing them. Morgan was very nice and answered all the questions calmly and openly. Morgan asked, "What happened to Payton, and is she dead?" When the investigator asked Morgan why she hurt her best friend, she calmly replied that it was necessary. She explained that the crime had been planned 6 months in advance. They had prepared meticulously but had hesitated to carry it out. And on May 31, they decided to go through with the plan because they had all decided to spend the night together at Morgan's house. After celebrating her birthday at Morgan's house, they spent the morning playing video games, dressing up and fooling around, and then went to the park. Payton noticed that Morgan had taken her backpack to the park, which contained clothes and granola bars. When she asked why they needed the supplies, Morgan said they might want a snack. The girls took pictures of Anissa and Morgan's parents with them. They took them because they didn't know if they were coming home. Finally, before anyone saw, Anissa put a knife in her bag. First, they played on the playground, then they went to the bathroom. Morgan and Anissa looked at each other and whispered. Anissa asked Payton to go into the stall and go to bed. Payton didn't understand why, but her friends were interested. They had read that it's easier to kill a person in their sleep because they don't fight back, and with their eyes closed, the killer can't see or reflect you, so it's easier to do it that way. They forced Payton into the stall and locked her in the corner. Morgan asked Anissa, "I thought we agreed you were going to do this." Anissa then slammed Payton's head into the wall. Anissa and Morgan then left the stall to discuss a plan of action. They approached Payton and suggested they get out and take a walk. The girls went outside. They walked toward the trees. Anissa discreetly showed Morgan a place to carry out the plan. They suggested that Payton play hide and seek. Morgan had to seek. Anissa suggested that Payton lie down on the ground in the bushes to hide. In fact, they wanted to pin her down so they could attack her. But Payton didn't want to lie on the ground, so Anissa started pushing her and Payton resented it. Anissa gestured to Morgan that Peyton wasn't on the ground, and Morgan gestured for her to grab her and she would stab her. Anissa knocked her to the ground, and then Morgan ran up and tried to give her the knife back. She said she couldn't do it. Morgan wanted Anissa to do it herself, as she knew better where the weaknesses were because she had seen the movie Judgment Day and knew where to strike. But Anissa refused, and the girls began to argue about who should kill Peyton. Morgan was sure Peyton didn't hear them talking because she was distracted by the flowers and looking at them. Anissa stabbed Peyton with a knife and then handed the knife to Morgan. Morgan jumped on Peyton and began stabbing Peyton all over her body. According to Morgan, it looked like air. Anissa stood back and watched as Morgan did all this. Then Morgan got up and they walked away from the place. Morgan was covered in blood. Peyton yelled after them, "I trusted you. I hate you." Anissa said, "Lie still so you don't bleed to death." She told her that so Peyton wouldn't draw attention to herself by screaming. The injured girl tried to stand, but she couldn't. She fell and said she couldn't breathe and couldn't see well. She cried and begged her friends to help her. Morgan went over to Peyton and tried to wipe the blood on her body with leaves, but it didn't help. Peyton begged them not to touch her. Morgan and Anissa pretended to go for help and ran away, leaving her there to die. But instead of getting help, they went to the Walmart store. They went to the restroom, washed the blood off their hands, and tried to scrub the blood off their clothes, but failed. When questioned, Morgan even hesitated about whether or not she wanted to see her parents. Perhaps this is an indication of problems in the family. According to Morgan, Anissa told her that she had to kill Peyton so that Slender Man would leave them alone. Otherwise, he would kill their families and they were forced to do it. So Morgan agreed to do it. Morgan admitted, "I was confused. I understood what we were doing, but I didn't want to upset my best friend, Anissa. It is not easy to find a true friend. Slender Man is a fictional, tall, faceless character who kidnaps children." Morgan and Anissa wanted to become Slenderman's helpers and prove his existence. They wanted to live in his mansion in the woods and didn't even realize it was a fictional character. They were sure they had seen him live. Anissa was very upset during the interrogation and could barely hold back tears. She said that Morgan had heard voices just like she had. That was why they had to commit the crime. According to Anissa, it was Morgan who suggested in December 2013 that she become Slenderman's sidekick. She agreed, and that's when Morgan said she made a deal with him. They had to kill Peyton or he would come after them and take them and their families. So they had to kill their friend. According to Anissa, they discussed the crime while riding the bus to school together, whispering so that they would not be overheard and not realize that their plan was dangerous. They realized it. According to Anissa, Morgan took the knife and put it in her waistband under her sweatshirt, contradicting her friend who claimed that Anissa put the knife in her backpack. According to Anissa, only Morgan did all the stabbing. Anissa said she did not participate because she is a good person and too squeamish about other people's blood, but there were blood stains on her clothes, so her words sounded implausible. The girls blamed each other for what happened. After the Walmart store, they went to Nakioliti National Park in Wisconsin, where they believed Slender Man lived. Anissa claimed to have seen him, a tall man in a suit with a white mask instead of a face. On the way to the woods, the girls argued about their guilt over leaving Peyton behind in the woods and began to blame Morgan for what had happened. They realized that they could not return home or they would be arrested. Anissa regretted what had happened, unlike Morgan, who was calm and unrepentant when questioned. When questioned, they admitted that they had originally planned to kill Peyton in her sleep so they wouldn't have to look her in the eye. They planned to tape her mouth shut to keep her from screaming and then run away. However, they later abandoned the idea because they didn't want to involve her family. After officers learned of the girls and put them on the wanted list, a passing motorist saw them and called police. They were eventually arrested just 30 minutes after Peyton was found in the woods. Candy bars, Morgan's diary, pictures of their families, and a knife were found in the girls' backpack. Morgan and Anissa had blood on their clothes. The cops looked at their computers and cell phones. It turned out that Morgan had done searches such as how to cover up a murder, guilt for murder, what happens if I get caught for murder, can I get arrested for murder in self-defense. This confirms that they were planning the crime and researching how best to do everything. The investigation revealed that one of the students told the school counselor that she had heard Anissa talking about how she had found a way to become Slenderman's assistant and had to kill someone to do it. The school counselor, she said, did not react to this. The police tracked down the school counselor and he denied saying this. Several other classmates told the police that Anissa had offered them to participate in the crime and hinted at killing her friend, but they refused and did not take Anissa's words seriously. Now they feel guilty for not reporting it to the police right away. A farewell message was found in Anissa's phone in the notes from May 28. My last wish to those who care. Don't feel bad about my absence, but remember me as I was. I love you and will not hurt you. I want everything I have to go to my parents and best wishes to everyone who knows me personally. Don't miss me. Their school lockers were filled with drawings of bloody figures, knives, and Slenderman. Payton turned out to be a strong girl. She did not give up and die, realizing that her friends had run away and no one would come to help. Gathering all her strength, she crawled to the road for help and was found by a bicyclist. So she could not speak because she was in so much pain and could only nod her head. She was nearly unconscious. The girl suffered life-threatening injuries, including one a few millimeters from her heart. She was rushed to the intensive care unit and doctors saved her life. So she came to her senses and then recovered mentally and physically for a long time. She needed psychological help. That is why she still has nightmares with her friends and lives in constant fear. She revealed that before Morgan stabbed her, he said he was sorry, but it was the only way to save her from Slenderman, who was stalking her. Morgan and Anissa's parents knew their daughters were fascinated by Slenderman and other fictional characters on a scary website, but saw nothing wrong with it. They didn't know the girls were so afraid and fascinated by him, so they didn't do anything about it. Teachers described Morgan as a strange, unsociable girl who was a loner. Morgan once ran around the school claiming that Snape from Harry Potter was chasing her. The teacher told Morgan's mother about the incident. Her mother replied that her daughter was just watching scary stories. The teacher talked to the girl and asked her to stop watching scary stories, but Morgan did not listen. Later, she brought a hammer to school that had fallen out of her locker, and other students noticed it. She was called into the principal's office and told that she needed the hammer for self-defense. The principal noticed that Morgan was talking to herself and told her mother. Her classmates saw her walking around with a diary in which she wrote down her thoughts, and it said death. It scared everyone very much. The teacher reported it to her mother, but she didn't take what was happening to Morgan seriously. Morgan's mother noted that she had not expressed empathy for others since childhood. For example, after watching the cartoon Bambi, she was not at all upset when the mother of the baby deer died and just said, "Run, Bambi, run." 12-year-old Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weier were charged with attempted first-degree murder. At the trial, Anissa said she didn't take it seriously and thought she and Morgan were playing a game. She didn't take it seriously until Morgan started stabbing Peyton's body. According to Anissa, she didn't want to hurt anyone. She just wanted to prove the existence of this character and wanted to try other ways. They were afraid that if they didn't carry out the plan, Slenderman would come after them. So they committed this crime. The girls regretted what they had done. Morgan was diagnosed with the early stages of schizophrenia. As it turned out, her father had schizophrenia, and the condition was passed on to her. Morgan pleaded guilty, but was found not guilty by reason of mental illness as part of the plea agreement. She was sentenced to 40 years in a mental hospital. Anissa pleaded guilty at trial to being an accessory to attempted premeditated murder, but the jury found her not guilty because of her mental illness. She allegedly could not tell the difference between reality and her fantasies. Anissa was sentenced to 25 years in a psychiatric hospital. However, in the summer of 2021, the court granted her request for early release. Doctors confirmed that she was no longer a danger to herself or others. On September 13, 2021, 19-year-old Anissa was released from a psychiatric hospital. She lives with her parents and plans to continue her studies and find a part-time job. Anissa is under constant GPS surveillance, and her computer activity is monitored to ensure she is not visiting scary websites. She is not allowed to consume alcohol or prohibited substances, possess weapons, or have contact with Peyton and her family. Peyton is now 19 years old. She graduated from high school and went to university to study medicine. She has no girlfriends, but she is dating a guy.